All right, what's up, everybody? How's it going? Thank you for listening to the Whatcast.
It's us. We are the Whatcast. It was us all along.
We're gonna take a break from monoliths and aliens with something that might be an alien. I don't know.
I'm gonna say we're taking a permanent break from monoliths. I will not cover another monolith on the Whatcast unless it glows in the dark and floats of its own volition and grants wishes. If all three of those things happen, then I will cover another monolith. Until that happens, there will be no monoliths on the show. Mark my words, goddammit. And that goes for you, fucking Monolith Mateo. No Monolith Mateos allowed on the Whatcast.
I agree. It's got to be a really, really, really cool monolith. It's got to be on fire with turquoise crystals shooting around it that hover
and talking in like this really cool, echoey, deep voice.
Yeah. But today, instead of all that, we're going to talk about the Potosi Sheep Slayer.
The sheep sucker?
Sheep fucker.
The sheep fucker. I'm on to you, sheep fucker. Quit fucking my sheep.
I don't quite right appreciate you fucking my sheep, sheep fucker.
You're ruining all the wool. Sheep ain't worth shit. Quit fucking my sheep. Goddamn sheep fucker. That was me spitting out chaw, by the way.
I assure you, this is much cooler than a sheep fucker.
Well, I hope so, because I don't think we could do an entire episode on bestiality. It would go too far. There's just some lines I'm not willing to cross on the Whatcast.
Oh, well, you don't need to tonight.
Beautiful.
Our story features 24-year-old Valentina Flores, along with her husband and infant daughter, are part of the Quechua tribe of Indians that live on the southwestern highlands of Bolivia in a city called Potosi. Most of the time, her husband was away at work, so Valentina made her living at home as a herdess.
A herdess? Why?
A herdess.
Why don't they just call them shepherds? Why can't they be shepherds anymore? Why are they herdesses?
It's a female shepherd, I guess.
Well, why can't females just be called shepherds or shepherdess?
Maybe there was a female shepherds union and they decided on new terminology.
I don't know. Something's fishy already. I'm not buying the story.
I'm out.
Yeah. This alone makes me call the entire thing into question, Mateo. I'm not gonna lie.
Such a skeptic these days, guys. 2020 has ruined Mike.
My eyes have been opened. Anyway, I don't mean to shit in your cereal. Please continue.
Okay, one evening in 1967, Valentina wrapped up her baby, gathered her flock, and led them to a nearby grazing field to feed, and to put them into their old stone corral for the evening. After a while of the animals grazing, Valentina noticed that her llama were nowhere to be seen. She decided to leave the sheep near the corral and search for her llamas. She soon found tracks left by the animals and decided to follow them. After a 45-minute trek, she found them moping around a meadow, being llamas, doing llama things. She gathered them up.
Like what, Mateo? What are llama things?
Smoking, rolling dice, skateboarding.
Are they threatening old ladies with black tar heroin? Wow, that escalated quickly. All right. Fucking llamas, man.
These were mischievous llamas. They just left. They're supposed to be eating.
Yeah. I mean, you'd think you could trust your llama, but apparently not. They want to go do drugs and gamble, apparently.
Fucking savages. They're just chasing the dragon. Supposed to be eating bugs and leaf blades off the ground, you son of a bitch. But yeah, so after she gathered up all the llamas, she headed back to the grazing field to reunite with the sheep. And this is where things started to get weird, or as we say here, awesome.
So the gambling and drug doing llamas wasn't weird. That's just par for the course, apparently.
No, that's just what llamas do when nobody's around.
All right.
There's footage of it on YouTube.
Solid. Got it.
It's just part of nature. When she approached the field, she noticed that now all of her sheep were gone. And even stranger, there was now a web-like substance covering the entire stone corral. She made her way to the entrance of the corral to see if the animals were inside. And they were. All 64 head of sheep were there, on the ground, dead. Dead. Amongst the carcasses of sheep, carcasses, she noticed some movement. It is then when she clearly focuses on a movement that she sees the Sheep Slayer. Now, we actually have some quotes from Valentina. She says that there was a small man inside the corral. He was like a child. He was on his knees with one of the sheep between his legs.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Are we going? We're not going the bestiality route, are we?
No, I told you, no worries. You don't have to worry about that.
He's on his knees. It's between his legs. Like, what else is going on there?
If I would have said he had it in full mount, half of the people might not have known what we were talking about.
Well, but I mean, even that. Let's be real here. I'm sure he does have it in full mount. He is the sheep fucker after all.
He does have it in full mount. She said that the entire pen was covered in that weird webby net-like substance.
Yeah. You know what that webby, sticky substance is, Mateo? God, I was expecting more out of you, Mateo. This is offensive, and we really resulted to dwarfs fucking sheep on the Whatcast to death, no less.
Oh God!
You're telling me that this little man is fucking 64 sheep to death and shooting his. I hate this so much.
Let me finish. She said that she panicked and that this individual had killed all my animals. She said it was holding a tubular-like instrument tipped with a hooked blade. Next to it was a plastic bag full to the brim with the entrails of all the sheep. She had interrupted the creature disemboweling her last animal.
So it was disemboweling them and collecting the blood?
No, not the blood. Their innards. Viscera.
Man.
So now she's pretty pissed off, and she did what any flock leader would and should do. She yelled, "Oi, cunt!" and started pelting it with rocks like an old-timey biblical execution. Shocked, the creature jumped up and faced Valentina, where she got an even better look at it. She said it was chubby, around 3 feet tall, was wearing strange clothing, like a diver, one piece from the neck to the feet, and was wearing brown boots. It had red straps that crossed its chest in an X shape, which were connected to some sort of mechanical backpack. He had 2 satchel pouches on each hip and a blockish helmet topped with either antenna or propeller. It then leapt towards a device that was set up nearby that she can only describe as looking like a radio. He gave a handle on the device a turn, and all the webbing and the net-like substance that covered the corral quickly retracted into this device. At this moment, she noticed a second similar being on the opposite end of the corral. But he must have watched Valentina exact some of that Old Testament justice and wanted none of it, because he ran out of the corral, up a nearby hill, to an awaiting chair-like device that once sat in, sprung out a propeller blade from the back, and he cut the fuck out of there. Now at this point, the first creature started screaming at Valentina. She said she could not understand him as he was not speaking Spanish or Quechua, but she must have taken the second one's hasty departure as a sign of fear because she decided to put out her trusty iron-tipped billy club and bashed the remaining creature in the face. She said she hit it with everything she had.
Fuck you, little man.
She said she hit it in the head, and it instantly drew blood from the creature. The creature started to scream, then drew his hooked tube knife thing and chucked it right at her chest. She said that she kind of partially and almost accidentally parried the attack with her club, as it kind of just hit her where the club was after she hit, but it did cut her arm and her chest. She noticed the device was connected to the creature by what seemed to be a chain, and the weapon retracted instantly after he threw it. Seeing this, and not wanting to give it another chance to attack her, she bashed the creature for a second time. This time the creature screamed in agony as it held up its arm, revealing a now dangling, completely broken wrist. Having seen his fair share of Bolivian badassery, he then grabbed the radio-like device and is just like his chicken shit homie before him, ran up a hill to an awaiting copter chair and cut out.
What year did you say this took place in?
1967.
This sounds like one of the old type UFO sightings. Like the ones from the 50s and 60s were always so fucking weird. And I want to know where the weird shit went, man. Like, you don't hear dudes in copter chairs taking off anymore. What the fuck?
Right. Yeah, it definitely has a weird feel. It has the feel of those old ones. It's got, I don't know, do you think that it's weird to us because it happened in a foreign country? I mean, there's plenty of other cases that happen in foreign countries that we're very familiar with. But when it comes to these creature sightings like this, all these ones that happen in other countries when it comes to the creatures are just so fucking bizarre. I think of shit like the Zanfretta case or Rockhead Jellyfish Man. You know, do you think they get less consideration and notoriety because they are foreign as well as being so fantastic?
I don't know, because the really fantastic sightings from the U.S. don't really get a lot of attention. Like the little hairy men that came out of a UFO and tried to steal away a woman. You don't really hear about that. You don't really hear too much about the dick nose aliens. Like the really weird ones, because they're fucking weird. They don't match up with what we would perceive as being normal. You know, it's I don't know, like this sort of thing. It reminds me of those old-timey cases. And I say old, you know, I mean, it's really not that long ago, but old-timey in the sense of these weird, like, UFO alien reports. But it was still relatively early on. But it also has kind of a fairy-type feel to it. Like some sort of, maybe, I would be interested to know if she had done something that could have been perceived as disrespectful by a nature spirit of some sort on the land, or if there was a reason for them to be destroying her entire flock. Because usually with fairies and elves and that whole sort of thing, I guess collectively nature spirits or nature beings, or I don't know, you know what I'm talking about, the fae folk. Traditionally they're more ones to get into mischief, not so much kill your entire flock of sheep. Like maybe they would kill one sheep and be like, oh shit, somebody gutted my sheep and stole the entrails from it. You know, they'll pull pranks, they'll do things like that, but they're not typically known for murdering on a grand scale. At least not as far as I'm aware. Maybe I'm way off on that, but unless she did something, you know, completely terrible that warranted this revenge. Maybe she built the barn over their fairy mound or something. But It also reminds me of cattle mutilations. And it's interesting that this thing has an instrument that's like a hollow hook that it's using to steal entrails from the sheep.
Yeah, it's organ harvesting, right?
Yeah, which is in a lot of ways what happens with the cattle mutilations. Like they'll core out the entire rectum or take out the eyes and the tongue, but there's no blood on the site. So what if this little tool that this thing is using is making the clean cuts, and it's really just chubby little men in spacesuits? It's not the Greys. It's it's not the government. It's just chubby dudes in outdated spacesuits.
Well, there's a couple cool points to this case. All this information comes from an account reported by a kick-ass Spanish ufologist, novelist, J.J. Benitez. And I'll put links to his website where he has sketches of this creature, or these creatures. There's two of them. Even the mountain where they ran to and took off. But after he heard about the encounter, he traveled to Bolivia in 2001 and was able to actually track Valentina down. So all this came from the lady herself. And he reported that a few days later, the army showed up.
What do you mean the army? Like the army showed up to talk to him, or because he was there, or just by coincidence?
Oh, no, he's just saying that Valentina reports that after a day or two of this happening, her encounter with the Sheep Slayer.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The army showed up, which seems like a lot, but apparently other people had been reporting these things and finding hollowed out sheep nearby. And the army ended up taking all 63 sheep bodies. They took samples of the creature's blood and left. And she said that there was, funny enough, absolutely no blood on the scene, on or in any of the animals, and they were all missing their internal organs, with some missing their tongues and eyes.
Are you fucking kidding me? It's just like the cattle mutilations. Exactly like the cattle mutilations. The only difference is that this had a little fat man involved. Two little fat men involved with helicopter chairs.
Right. And you mentioned maybe offending something, no matter what these little things were. If, like you said, we're going with the face stuff. She also mentioned that just, I think it was 2 days before this incident, she described, what he wrote down about this is kind of hard to explain, but the best way to say it is she had a bowl of blood splashed in her face by something invisible. Like she was just hit in the face with a bunch of blood.
After the fact?
2 days before.
2 days before? Just phantom blood splashes in her face?
Yep.
Ugh. That's creepy as shit.
Yeah. It's also interesting to note that when visited by Benitez, she was shocked that someone had actually heard about her encounter. And it was fascinating to read that when asked, she had no idea what an alien was. She didn't know what a UFO was. She hadn't seen anything like that and wouldn't even entertain the idea or the thought of it being some otherworldly life form. They didn't have fucking TVs and shit. They reportedly, she was illiterate, so she wasn't reading magazines about flying saucers and shit like that.
So what if what she saw with the chairs, because it was so beyond what she would even be aware would be a possibility? Maybe it was like this weird thing that they sat in and it spun around, and so it gave her the idea that it was like a helicopter type thing, but it was something completely different.
Yeah, maybe one of those cheesy Magnum PI helicopters where it's like just a clear plastic bubble all around it.
Yeah,
but it had like
who knows?
It could have been something like that. I don't know.
But another interesting thing is that black helicopters do tend to be present around cattle mutilation sites. Unmarked black helicopters.
Yeah, I found it interesting too that these things use propellered things to get around. And also thought of maybe the confusion of with the helicopter or some type of small one-person propellered craft.
Right. It's if that's the case, that's because you don't really hear about cattle mutilations too much in other countries, which also seems kind of weird.
Well, I mean, you hear about them a lot in South America.
Really?
Oh, yeah, that's where you get all the good fucking human stories from, too.
We can't talk about it.
Shit. I'm going to have to beep that out.
Yeah, beep out when I said it, too.
Okay. But again, I just loved hearing this story and having him, ask her, do you think this was like a UFO that they were flying away in, or these were aliens, and having her go, what? What's that?
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. And I believe that wasn't the 60s when it first started in the US as well.
What, the like another UFO flap?
No, the cattle mutilations.
Oh, I'm sure
What
it
was
goes
his
back.
name? Snippy, the horse. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up really quick.
Yeah, do that. But I'm sure the cattle mutilations go back as far as the fucking Benny and Barney Hill days.
I think it was Snippy. Yeah, Snippy, which was the first case in the U.S. was September 1967. It was Snippy the horse. The horse. I guess Snippy is an unfortunate nickname because it was a mutilation. So Snippy, ha ha ha. But the horse's name was apparently Lady, and it was a 3-year-old horse, and its head and neck had been completely skinned, and there were surgical cuts along there, and there was no blood found at the scene. But the flesh on the head had been completely removed after the skin had been peeled, but no blood on the scene at all. This one wasn't missing its entrails, though. But this is the most ridiculous goddamn explanation for death that I've ever heard. But after examining it, the sheriff reported that the death was probably due to a lightning strike, and he didn't even bother to go visit the site.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What if he had come across this before and he was just like, I'm not dealing with this shit again?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was lightning. Fuck you.
You won't get me again, aliens. Not again. But it's weird because it's something that continues to happen. I mean, when we were talking about the Skinwalker Ranch, they left. They're like, we're sick of losing cattle. We're not going to do that anymore. And they're not the only ones that have experienced that. There was a book, The 37th Parallel, I believe. But there's a lot of cattle mutilations that seem to take place along the 37th parallel in the United States, along with a bunch of other weird shit. That's a really cool book. But no matter where these take place and no matter what time frame, this started in the 60s and it continues to this day, and it's always the same. There's just parts taken, very surgically removed, no blood on the scene, no evidence of being attacked by animals or, and anything else. And oftentimes the other animals in the area will avoid the carcass. And I don't know if it's because it's a dead animal and they're just avoiding it because of that, or if there's more to it than that. But I recall hearing a story about these two horses. It might have been in the 37th parallel, but there were these two horses that were together, and one of them ended up getting mutilated. Well, it was they were together, but only one of them ended up getting mutilated, and the other one was completely traumatized and would not go near the place where where its buddy was mutilated, and would freak out anytime it had to leave the barn, and just got really fucking weird, and it got skittish when it was normally a really sociable horse. But it's just weird that there's obviously something that's going on, and I don't want to say it's little chubby guys in helicopter chairs, but why the hell not? Why can't it be chubby little guys in helicopter chairs?
Yeah, it's a weird description, and he even says that she described them as when she gave it the whack to the head, she was able to see its face clearly, and the description of his face is even stranger. She said that it had blonde hair, blue eyes, and a very pronounced bright red mustache.
Sounds like a goddamn cartoon character.
Doesn't it?
It really does.
It's one of these awesome fucking super strange, and like I said, one of these cases from a foreign place, for you and I, but thinking about this and what's going on, there's such similarities to the classic cattle mutilation shit. The fact that Valentina didn't know what an alien was or UFOs, and that's not what she attributed this creature to being or being from. What do encounters like this, and again, Zanfretta, and even the Casablanca case, mean for ufology with all the recent developments in the field? Okay, there's UFOs now, and they're real. We got to say that. We got to admit that. I'm never going to stop driving that home. There are UFOs now, confirmed as much as you want. But could these things possibly be piloted with such creatures in these cases?
I think that this is where there's like the big divide in ufology, because you've got the people that want to take a look at the real serious stuff, like the footage that the military is putting out there and what the capabilities are, and like look into that. And then you've got other people that look at all these weird cases like this and the Flatwoods Monster and the Loveland Frog and all that shit, and lump that in with it. And I think that really hurts the scientific research. Well, I shouldn't say hurts, but kind of
deters.
No, I think that it prevents it from being taken 100% seriously. Like even now with the knowledge that UFOs are, that these craft are being is not we know they're real, that we don't know what they are, but the military is saying that they are in fact real, and we don't know what they are. So, it's no longer swamp gas and weather balloons. But what it is, we don't fucking know, man.
Partially, I mean, they're saying these are off-world crafts. We can't forget that.
Well, they did say there's evidence, or they recovered an off-world. How is it worded? It was worded really weird.
Exotic.
They're in possession of off-world exotic material, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was really weird the way that they did that. But I think that these weird cases, when people try to lump them in with people that are researching the phenomena itself, I think it prevents the public from taking them seriously. Even though we have people out there saying it's real, there's still the tendency to kind of not take it 100% seriously when it's being reported, and you're still getting the X-Files theme songs, and even though the military stuff has come out and that's being taken with a little more credibility, when you get the events that happen, like especially if it's like on the local news level where you see a news reporting on a UFO sighting, it's never taken seriously. It's never like, holy fuck, there was a UFO here last night. It's like, what did the residents see over the skies? And it's just some guy be like, I don't know, it was a really bright light, it was flying in the sky, and we looked and it was gone, I don't know. And then they cue in the fucking X-Files theme, and then they show the obligatory stills of the grainy photographs that everyone has seen about 1,000 times. And I just don't think it's given the credit it deserves still, even though it's out there as being real. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I don't think lumping these in together is helpful, but I still think it's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely, for some reason, when I was reading this case, I wanted to take a break from UFO stuff and monoliths like we joked about in the beginning. And after reading this, towards the end, I was like, oh, well, this is another UFO case. These are some type of alien things. But my mind, just by how weird it is, wanted to throw it into cryptozoology stuff instead of an alien encounter, just like Flatwoods. That can only be described as some type of alien thing. There's mechanics, and it showed thought. It tried to defend itself by spraying gas and all these things. So it just lands in this cryptozoology field for me. And that's another question I had for you. Do you think this fortifies your idea that everything is separate? And if these things aren't aliens, was this like a T-1000 version of Chupacabras or something?
To me, I don't think this stuff is separate at all. I think it's all linked together in this weird fucking... I don't even know what to describe it as. I take more of the John Keel approach, where I think all this phenomena is linked together, and even though it seems to be on the surface to be separate, when you really dig down, you'll see a lot of overlap. And we've talked about that on the show like a billion times, how there's weird cases or weird places where there'll be heavy UFO activity, but there's also cryptid sightings and hauntings, or cases of possession, or traditionally a place where spirits walked, or Bigfoot, or there's a lot of things that really overlap, that if you were just to look at on the surface, you wouldn't think anything of it. But why are places like Mount Shasta, for instance, that's a place where there's heavy UFO activity, but there's also Bigfoot sightings. And if I'm not mistaken, there's been a lot of missing 411 cases as well. So you got the three different phenomena all linked to the same place, and you're telling me that's separate? Like, it seems like they go together, which is not necessarily saying that Bigfoot is an alien or that UFOs are from outer space, but it's just, I think there's links, and when you start seeing a lot of the crossover, like Skinwalker Ranch again, or any fucking number of areas where there's been a lot of UFO activity, will always have other things linked to it. I remember talking about the cases in Brazil where the Chupacabras were blasting people with these light beams and like stealing their blood and shit, but they would appear like inside people's houses, like materialized through walls and shit. So it was like they were specters almost, and they just haunt their house and suck their blood like a fucking vampire.
It's so weird. It just seems so separate. It just seems like Valentina's case, these creatures are so separate from what we're learning about UFOs now. I just don't see the things piloting those things or responsible for those things being the same thing, being the 3-foot mustachioed goat sucker killers.
Well,
it's just so weird.
I mean, her description, it really sounds like a cartoon character. 100% sounds like a cartoon character. And what if it's something as simple as she had a psychotic break and murdered her entire flock after witnessing her llamas shooting black tar heroin? It was just too much for her. And she came back, murdered her sheep so that their innocence would not be corrupted by the llamas, and then instantly had regret and needed to come up with a story. And she had recently seen a cartoon where there was a character that was very much like the one that she described, and she just said, no, they came and they disemboweled my sheep and took off when I beat them with my wand.
She goes into like Wolverine berserker rages and just
not my sheep.
With all that being said, do you think we as humans should start paying a bit more attention to cryptozoology and the supernatural?
The supernatural, definitely. I think it's stuff that's like it's it's in our DNA almost, like look at all our stories of mythology and all these weird creatures that are seen in mythology. And a lot of indigenous populations all have their own stories of fae folk. They're called different names in different cultures, but for some reason, indigenous cultures all seem to have their own type of creature that plays this role, or I don't even want to say creature, this type of being. And I think that there's something to be said for that, because a lot of the indigenous cultures have close ties to the earth. So it would make sense that they would be more likely to encounter these beings, even, in the modern age when reliance on the earth isn't so prevalent. It's still tied very much to the cultural beliefs of the people, and even in some of the practices that they still have, while not necessarily tying in with fae folk or spirits, it still kind of invokes the spirit behind their ancestors. But I think that you could just say it's an archetype that's being repeated over and over and over again. But it's interesting that some of the things that wouldn't really be considered archetypal, I guess, are repeated. Like the fact that these beings, because they could be seen as tricksters, the trickster shows up in myths all over the world. It's a huge part of mythology. So it could be like a trickster archetype, but then there's the whole idea of these things being able to lead you into their realm where you can't come back, especially if you eat something while you're there, then you'll be trapped in their world. Or a lot of times in fairy lore, there'll be reports of people that get taken away to dance or to go to a party with these mystical beings, and they feel like they've been gone for a few minutes and it's been weeks, and people have given them up for dead, and they're like, no, I'm still alive, I was just dancing with the fairies, no big deal. And to me, that's a lot like lost time. And if they had hypnosis, what would they remember? Would they remember having weird tests done on them in the fairyland? Is the fairyland just like an illusion or a post-hypnotic suggestion for when these beings are done with you? They put the memory of these magical times where you're dancing and partying with the fairies, when in reality you're getting your eyeballs scraped and your entrails played with. I don't know, man.
All this encounter really got me thinking about that shit. And it's interesting that you're going that way. It made me think of a term that I heard of a long time ago, and we should really do a show on it. But in short, what if all the alien disclosure shit is the distraction? What if the government made a deal like we recently talked about, but not with aliens, but with multiple life forms from all sorts of spectrums? Maybe something like a goblin pact.
Oh, shit. A government goblin pact?
Yeah, maybe there's a deal with Bigfoot to lay low. Is there a constant stream of new souls that must be sent to the underworld to battle some type of fucking weird evil that lives there that constantly tries to escape to get to Earth? What if there's deals with midget sheep butchers to exist?
And this is where Spooky Team 6 comes in.
Yeah, exactly. What if there is some type of pact with the goblin universe, not the alien universe? Maybe Nessie's still swimming around Loch Ness, but the government has made a deal with that entity to not just fucking hop up on land and start destroying everybody that lives there. So they gave him like an invisibility collar as like trade, as part of their...
Or they built an underwater fortress where it can swim down and hide out, and they stack it full of fish and babies.
Cigars, satellite TV.
Penthouse magazine.
Delivered. Nessie loves Penthouse.
Loves Penthouse. Only for the articles, though. Nessie doesn't care much for the naked people.
Yeah, Playboy's a little too soft for him. Their articles aren't as good.
No.
So he's got got to step it up.
Yeah.
To Penthouse. So as a whole, what do you think of Valentina's story? I think she's fucking awesome. I have to say,
I think it's crazy and I love it.
Me too. I have to remind everybody how badass she is. This whole shit went down with her baby on her back.
Oh shit, I forgot she had a baby on her back the whole time.
Yeah, sure did. She said that when it threw its little fucking blade, her club blocked it, but what hit her in the chest, and she said the knot from the blanket being tied from the baby stopped it from completely cleaving her chest.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be even cooler if the baby hopped off her back like in Kung Pao and just whooped some ass. Just did some fucking karate moves.
I would love that. That would be the best ending to that story.
Yeah.
But what do you think about her story? Do you think that this lady is just making this up, or is this a cool cryptid alien sighting like Flatwoods and Casablanca?
Right. So I'm of two minds. On one side of things, I think she could have very well seen a cartoon and made this story up. Either way, what she saw is not what really happened. But on the other hand, maybe this happened the way that she's explaining it, and she just has these screen memories of what she witnessed. Like, what if it was like this really scary monster? What if it was a fucking chupacabra? Like the not the coyote with mange chupacabra, but the cool fucking porcupine kangaroo monkey monster that can fly, jump with sails on its back. That one. But it was like a screen memory that was left, so it was just like this kind of jovial being.
I don't know. I don't think she had TV to watch cartoons. I don't think she did. I don't think she would say that this was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed little man.
Well, that's why I think it was some sort of screen memory. Like, I don't think that what she saw was the actual thing that was there. Like, I think that it's a horrifying situation, but to kind of, like, it would be made more horrifying if you were to see this strange, monstrous creature. So instead, it was just, it like implanted this vision or memory of what it actually was. So in her mind, she was fighting this little cartoon character man, but in reality, she was battling some fucking bat monster or something.
I definitely agree with you there as far as that idea goes, because there's reports of people doing some really strange things in traumatic situations.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stories of traumatic experience causing multiple personality disorder as well. And I mean, you can live entirely separate lives from your own self, which is fucking crazy. But on a more weird side of things, Mike Cleland, we had him on the show a while back to talk about his book, The Messengers. But he talks about abduction experiences where people are left with these screen memories of owls because it's less threatening. You know, it's an easy cover.
Something familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, he told stories of people witnessing these 5-foot tall owls just standing in their driveway. And there's no owl that's that big, so
God, that's still so scary,
isn't
dude.
it? Yeah. Like just imagine sitting there, you're just sitting in your living room, you look out the window and there's this 5-foot fucking owl in your driveway. I mean, I would welcome in for tea and be like, "Come in, you glorious bastard. I know what's going on." But the normal
brothers,
person,
I've been awaiting your
yeah.
arrival.
Yeah. Your arrival has been foretold to me.
Enter, rest, and feed. There are 7 dead men in my basement.
Just don't eat my cats.
And please barf outside. No pellets inside, please.
No, I've got a strict no pellet policy. And I know for an owl your size, they're going to be pretty hefty pellets.
Oh, God, it would just have like 4 arms and shoes in it and shit.
Yeah. Oh, well, at least this one has a wallet in it. Sweet, $50. All right. I'm going to amend that no pellet policy. You keep eating people with stacked wallets and you can keep puking in my house.
How cool is it that he was able to track Valentina down, though? I mean, he's even got a picture of her in 2001 when he met her. I mean, full head of jet black hair, going strong, kicking ass. I mean, again, it's these weird creature cases, and I love them so much. But this one is not from the 50s, and not it. Again, her situation being, in a tribal environment and not knowing anything about it. Just I love this case so much, dude. We should write like some super cheesy fucking metal song about a sheep slayer.
Sheep fucker.
Sheep sucker.
Sheep motherfucker.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.